To have you with us on Primetime Business News. The role of Stokvels in the economy has been highlighted at an Indaba this week. According to recent research, savings in the form of Stokvels and burial societies are now higher than formal savings vehicles. Stokvels and burial societies are said to command about 44 billion rand between them. So are they performing optimally? Well, Thabiso Masudubele is the founder of the Stokvel and burial societies in Indaba. We've been seeing an Indaba in Soweto this week, and Thabiso joins us now. Great to have you with us. So this was the second event in Soweto. It started last year. What did you set out to achieve? What's happening on the ground as well?
Thanks, Francis. I think what motivated us to think about a Stokvel in Indaba, before that we had a radio feature that spoke about how Stokvels and burial societies can look at optimizing the value that they're getting from financial service institutions and for their money. From that was born the idea that people are interested in having a direct engagement, face-to-face engagement with senior managers of these financial service institutions, and just to create a platform for people to gain access to information on how the markets work, on how to access shares via the JSE and so on, and just to create a platform where people can get access to information to arrive at a place where they're making informed decision making.
Stokvels are happening, but is this still a problem? You know, I know a lot of people who are saving for, I don't know, groceries, school fees, things like that. It's quite short term. Yeah. And I know there's been a move to try and change the thinking to long term, to retirement. Is that shift happening? Absolutely it is.
I think the reason people still stick to short term, it goes back to the issue of information. That once people appreciate that there's got to be more that we can do with our money than saving it in January and in December spending that money in its entirety. So, for instance, we look at what are the nuanced differences between saving and investing. You might, for instance, be saving for Kontiki. It depends on the LSM as well. And Stokvels are found across from LSM 1 to 10. So you might find there's a group that are interested in saving and then traveling to Cape Town. But there's a group that's interested in saving for their kids' future. Which vehicles do they use? So a savings account is not necessarily the best way to save. Putting the money under your mattress has its own risks and dangers. So bringing guys like the JSE into townships to begin to share information, to say, you know, there are these things called pyramid schemes. And be careful. If someone promises you a return of 60%, it's illegal, it's a pyramid scheme. But what we've picked up is that because, you know, when people put money in pyramid schemes, it tells us one thing, that people have an appetite to invest money. So we're trying to say invest in the proper structured and legal mechanisms that are available.
Well, the appetite is different. The one gives you 60%. The one is a long-term view. And does it work? You know, so you've got 10 people and they invest on the JSE. Next year, the market goes down and half the people get scared. The others say, let's wait. Does it work when you've got a few decision makers like that?
Yes, it does. I think, in fact, this we learned also from the JSE because they were at the Indaba. I think we had no less than 3 groups today who said precisely that, to say collectively as a group, and the entire group was singing in one voice, saying, you know, it's not just about us putting money away for burial societies, always thinking about death and, you know, covering ourselves, being buried in caskets. But we're actually interested in playing a part in the mainstream economy. How do we do it? And then the JSE comes along and says, look, it's not about buying software that says you can trade on the JSE. It's about having access to a broker who then gives you advice. So they made an example that if you bought shares in Capitec 10 years ago, you spent 10,000 Rand, this is how much you'd have in 10 years and so on. So it's a process. I think getting to change the mindsets of people, moving from saving in January and spending it in December and looking at a long-term investment option is changing a mindset. And we know that changing a mindset is something that's going to happen gradually over time.
And are the financial institutions coming on board? I know there are instruments there, savings account where you have a few signatories. Again, it's a little bit more difficult for them. You've been saying that we need to create products that Stokvels need. What are those? Are the financial institutions offering anything attractive?
Look, we've been lucky to have the support and partnership of institutions like Old Mutual, Hollard, and these are some of the big insurance. So their point in participating in the Indaba was doing precisely that, getting insights from Stokvels to say these are the kinds of products that we're looking at. So one of the things that came out is to say, how do we have products that begin to deal with us as a group, one, and how do we begin to have products that deal with the issue of insurance, funeral cover, but also the issue of insurance. Instead of me having to pay 3 different organizations for 3 things, what are the possibilities? So the engagements at the Indaba around precisely those issues. And we're glad that, organizations such as Old Mutual, Standard Bank, who are at the Indaba, were then able to say, we'll go back and engage with you further to say, how do we develop products that talk to your needs?
So they are there to learn as well, which is great. What about the retailers? You've been saying, if Shopritewants to tap into this market, they must give us something. What?
No, look, I think that relates to Stokvels which are interested in investing, particularly in township economies. I know there's been a move from the provincial government in particular talking about how to revitalize the township economy. So we're saying, how are those opportunities created for resources that already exist within the townships? So for instance, when there's a development, there's a new mall in the township, which we've seen, when there's a new mall, it kills all the smaller businesses around that particular township. So how do you get this resource that's called Stokvels, who have money in savings account, in mattresses, get them to start investing in these businesses? So then you start building the local township economy, as opposed to having, ShopRite checkers only coming, because that's not essentially building the people who are there, because the ownership lies elsewhere. So he's saying, what are the opportunities of people engaging, either be through a franchise at that local mall or any which way, but participating through whatever economic activities that are happening in the township.
All right. Well, hope there's lots in the pipeline. Thank you for joining us. Thabiso Masudubele. That's all from the business desk. I'll have updates throughout Prime. Peter and I will be back with your news headlines.